Okay, so I haven't been able to stop thinking about this ever since I discovered it like a few days ago. So I think I just need to get this out there in a sort of conversational video with a random piece of my own fan art in the background just to have something to look at. So I think that I think I'll just state the thesis, I guess an English teacher would call it. So I think that the nightmare dimension is meant to represent the bad choices that a person can make after suffering an event that causes them PTSD. So, before the Book of Bill, I and some of the fandom kind of just assumed that the nightmare dimension was like hell or something, where like it's a horrible, painful place that they hate, and that's why Bill and his henchmaniacs are trying to get out of it and take over Earth or whatever. But according to the Book of Bill, it's actually a place that they really, really like. It was a place without many like laws of physics, and like they could just party all the time and do whatever they wanted and escape in there after doing crimes in the different universes and stuff. And the reason why they were going to Earth was because the Nightmare Realm was disappearing. And that got me thinking, so the Nightmare Realm was something positive that they were losing, and something that was influencing them to do these sort of crimes because they were free to do whatever they wanted. And that got me thinking, like, so after oh yeah, by the way, spoilers obviously. So after Bill destroyed his own dimension by accident, he was obviously put in the nightmare realm because that's the space in between dimensions. So if he was in a place that wasn't a dimension anymore, then he would be in the nightmare realm. And the nightmare realm offered endless possibilities of him being able, oops, sorry, I hit the closet door, of him being able to basically satisfy any urges that he had. Like, he could indulge himself in substances that would, like, what's it called, numb the effects of the PTSD. He could distract himself by committing crimes and going on these, like, chaotic crime sprees and everything, and meeting up with all the other people that also had the same issues and stuff. And like, I've come to realize that, like, after someone has a traumatizing event happen to them, they have, like, two decisions to make. One, they can get the help that they need and move on from it, and two, they can spiral into a dark path. And it seems that Bill has spiraled into that dark path. And that has made me realize that, like, the reason why they were so determined to, like, get into Earth and to take over Earth and turn that into the Nightmare Realm was because the Nightmare Realm was disappearing and the party was almost over. Like, Bill suffered in his childhood at a very young age to such an extent that only something as extreme as the Nightmare Realm and torturing other people and going on crime sprees and indulging himself in illegal substances and addictive practices, like, only something as extreme as that, like that constant loud noise, would drown out the trauma that he had experienced. So he couldn't just, like, settle in a normal dimension and maybe become an alcoholic or something. He had to stay in the nightmare dimension, and the nightmare dimension was disappearing, and that was terrifying to him. It's not just, oh, he just wanted to party and not do anything with his life. It's that he needed that party to keep going. And I mean, it kind of makes a lot more sense now. The pyramid, I think it was called, had a constant party in it during the Weird Mageddon, and that was just constantly what he was doing in the nightmare realm, because he was, like, running away from all of the trauma that he was experiencing, and he probably didn't even realize that was what he was doing. Like, on a smaller note, you know how in the missing journal pages revealed in the Book of Bill, Stanford was talking about how Bill would disappear for weeks at a time? I'm wondering if that's actually him going on these long parties with his friends because he couldn't stand being in a normal universe, operating a normal body for more than a few days. Because, like, whenever he did that, all of his trauma would come back because he wasn't having the constant noise in his head distracting him. It's like that's what he's chasing. His entire motivation for everything that he does is he's chasing that high of the party, He's chasing all of his distractions and all the noise just to try and drown out what happened to him because he's running away from what happened. And leading off of that makes me even more interested as to what's happening to him in the Theraprism, because now that he's, like, in jail, essentially, he had to quit everything cold turkey. He could no longer do any substances, he couldn't, like, party anymore, he didn't have anyone else that was like him to talk to. All he had to do was sit in a basically empty room and do, like, arts and crafts, basically. He's facing his demons right now, which is probably why he's as unstable unstable as he was seen at the end of the Book of Bill. It wasn't just him being bored out of his mind, it was that he is now ripped away from all of those unhealthy coping mechanisms all at the same time. Like, he's completely left stranded there, and it's probably not going very well for him, because he had been relying on those coping mechanisms for trillions of years, and now they're all taken away all at once, and he's having to, face his demons. He's having to face all of the trauma that he had been pushing down all of this time. And yeah, sorry, this video is unscripted, which is probably why it's so messy, but I haven't really heard a lot of people talking about how Bill must have been coping with his trauma before this, and how much of a change his life in the theraprism is, and like really acknowledging his biggest motivation. Like, Bill's motivation is to be distracted. He needs to distract himself, and I just think that's so interesting, because it's such an interesting villain motivation, Like, it's not just, like, before it was just, he's a demon so he's evil, but now it's like, he's evil because he has to do evil things to distract himself from what happened to him, Like, he has to get away from that somehow, so he'll do anything to just drown out the screams of his parents. Obviously, this is an explanation and not an excuse. This does not excuse what he's done, but I do always find it really interesting to analyze a villain's motivations. So what do you guys think? I would really like to have a conversation in the comments. I just think it's really interesting how Alex Hirsch has snuck in this whole, like, it's almost like an addiction story, Like, he's addicted to constantly having a wild party going on around him just so he can drown out what's happening. I think I've used the term drown out like 12 times. I'm just gonna stop here. So that's all I had to say. I just thought it would be interesting to acknowledge that and maybe talk about that to some other people, because I think this is just really, really fascinating. Just, just finally seeing his true motives. So, yeah, woo. That's it. Bye.